Hello, welcome back. We're doing a game of Active Directory, and this time we're doing a little bit more enumeration. In our last video, we spoke about null sessions, and we spoke about how null sessions allow you to offer no username and password when you're logging onto a Windows box, and if that RPC session is established, it will allow you to get a list of usernames on that box. You can then use that usernames or that list of usernames to try and guess passwords, to hope for the default passwords, and then you can be on your way. Today we're going to look at another tool. We'll see how that tool can help us with more enumeration. The tool is called enum4linux. enum4linux can do a null session enumeration, and we'll see how far that tool can take us. All right, so I still have, to some of you who have seen this video series before, you will already know that I keep a list, or I keep my notes on Obsidian, and then I send them to GitHub so that I can share with you some of my notes. You can also use your favorite note application, as long as it can reach the markdown, and then you'll be able to render the notes as I see them here. I'm just partial to Obsidian. Okay. All right, let's get back to our screen. So just to remind ourselves, the IP addresses and the names of the machines. In our lab, we are going to cat the host file. If you remember, we've got King's Landing, WINTERFELL, Marine, Castle Black, and Bravos. All right. So first up, it's a machine called King's Landing, and we're going to use enum4linux. I'm just going to zoom in here a little bit. Thank you, John. Let me just clear the screen, bring up the list again, and use enum4linux. enum4linux. It's a very old tool. To some of you who have started the journey as I have, you would remember VulnHub, I believe. Offensive security took over VulnHub. I'm not too sure there. But those early boxes, you could do nothing without enum4linux. Actually, that's not true. There's always been other tools. But one of those tools that have been indoctrinated, drilled into the brain, much like Nmap, is a tool called enum4linux. Those two tools, anybody who's basically gone down this journey, you would have known about enum4linux. All right, so enum4linux, if we are doing an unauthenticated scan, if we are doing a null session scan, we just go enum4linux, and then we specify the IP address. We're starting with King's Landing, and that's the IP address, and hit enter. The tool goes very, very quickly, and let's just scroll back to have a look at what it offers us. Basically nothing. This is where we run the command, and this is the report it started giving back. All you are getting back is the name of the machine, the name of the domain. No secrets there. You may be getting maybe the domain SID. We'll speak about the domain SIDs a little bit later. They're a little bit out of scope, but none of this information here immediately helps us to move any further. It couldn't establish a NetBible session. It couldn't establish a Samba session. which doesn't surprise me. King's Landing is supposed to be the main box, so it makes sense that it would be the most secure box, even though we know it's not really. But in terms of the lab, in terms of trying to simulate what you would find in a typical assessment, yeah, the main box would be the most secure. So we're trying to worm our way through less secure boxes in order to make our way to the main box being King's Landing. I'm going to clear the screen, get a list of all boxes again, and then we see that the next box up is it's WINTERFELL. So we do what we have done the last time. In enum4linux, we're offering no username, we're offering no passwords, and just the IP address, and then we hit enter. And looking at the screen, it looks like we're getting a lot more information. It shouldn't surprise us because if you recall, we were able to list, or we were able to get a little bit more information when we were using RPC client. With RPC client, if you recall, we were able to establish a null session with WINTERFELL, and we were able to use a command in enum users, meaning enumerate domain users, and we were able to get a list of names. We copied that result. To our notes over here. We didn't go further. There are other commands that are available on RPC clients. I remember there was a command to enumerate groups. So I suppose enum4linux is doing pretty much the same thing here, listing all the users and all their group membership. You see there's a group called stock, there's a group called domain users, and there's a group called nightwatch. All right. So let's go much further. There is, if you're paying attention, there is a little bit more information that we were able to see. Let me just scroll back. I'll show you what that little piece of information is. Here we go. So yeah, the text was a little bit too big. It was very easy to miss this piece of information. So if you're paying attention to your list, if the text on your terminal wasn't made as big as mine, there's a piece of detail you wouldn't have missed. Can you see that? There's a password leakage for the user samwell.tarly. If you want to understand how that could be, somebody probably a newbie or somebody less experienced, when they were creating those usernames, they forgot or they made a mistake, and then they put the details of the password on the descriptive field. What am I talking about? Let's just go have a look at the terminal. An Active Directory box will have this application here called Active Directory. Not this one here. We're looking for this one here. Active Directory users and computers. So when you have a look at that app, and you go to the users group and you look for samwell.tarly, you will notice that whoever created this account, this is what they've done. If you double click on it, there they are creating the name. I don't know whether they thought maybe they were reminding themselves or what they were doing, but they made an error. They went and they put the password over here. And unfortunately, that field can be seen, and that's our, well, that's the first cred. That's the first valid username and password that we are going to use. So if we come back to our notes, over there. There you go. So samwell.tarly's username, it's Heartsbane. These here are the rest of the creds that we are going to discover, and I've made some notes here about the method by which we will arrive at those creds. Okay. All right, going back to enum4linux, we've just discovered the information about .11. We clear the screen. We do the same for 12. And if you recall with RPC client, we couldn't find much information about this box either. So meaning null sessions were not yielding any information for this box. Let's just clear the screen, bring back a list again. We've seen how on King's Landing we couldn't find much information. On WINTERFELL we found a username and password for samwell.tarly. On Marine we couldn't find anything, so we continue the journey now with Castle Black. It's even less useful. All right, can't find any useful information there either, so we clear the screen, we bring back our list, and we try 23. And that's even less information. If you notice, we find even less information for a server not acting as a, in other words, if the server is not acting as a domain controller, we find even less information. All right, so that is enum4linux. Let's see how we can use the credentials that we have discovered. The beauty of enumeration is so you'll always find this theme where every little bit of information that you discover during your enumeration, it doesn't matter what that enumeration is, it's usually the username enumeration because you're looking for creds, but you realize that there's always this consistent theme where every little piece of information that you discover can actually help you in the next stage of the enumeration. So far, what we've discovered is the username and password for the user samwell.tarly. So let's see how the use of that information can help us with even more enumeration. We will still try enum4linux, but this time it's going to be an authenticated enumeration. All right, so we can say enum4linux, give me a list of users on that box, but I'm going to give you a username and we know the user is samwell.tarly, and we've got a password called Heartsbane, and the target IP address is King's Landing. King's Landing says it won't allow it. That makes sense too. I mean, it is an active, it is the main box. So it says they appreciate that you're using a username and password, but no joy. I just want to show you what it looks like when you use it without a username and password. There you can see it's actually a null session because we didn't supply a username and password. So if we clear the screen once more and bring back the previous command where we're supplying the username and password, It says, yeah, sure, I can appreciate you using username and password, um, but I'm still not to give you anything. You know what? I'm a little bit curious. Supposing you use the default admin, we already know the administrator username and password for these boxes. It's a practice lab, right? So Mayfly has already told us that the username and password, you might want to do troubleshooting or you might want to take a quick peek for whatever reason. It's vagrant. So let's have a look, see what happens when you use vagrant as username and password. Yep, when you give it a username and password that it can actually use, then yes, it can give you a useful list of names. There we've got Jamie Lannister, Cersei, Tyrone, Robert, Joffrey, Renly, Stannis, Peter Baelish, Lord Varys, Grandmaster Parcell. Yeah, so enum4linux is a very good tool. All right, so let's carry on. So we're going to clear the screen a little bit. We're going to go back to um, enumerating with only samwell.tarly. Um, what I want to know is if we don't tell it we're specifically looking for username, what other information can we get using samwell.tarly? All right, we've already established that we can't see anything. Let's go to 11. Okay, we have cleared the screen. Now we want to see if we find additional details when we enumerate WINTERFELL with samwell.tarly's detail. It's funny that it gives us even less. It gives us even less details when you specify a username. When we do, let's try that. Maybe it has a problem with a password and a username supplied like that. Yeah, so this is very curious. When you supply a username and password, you can get even less details. So if we just do a null session, isn't that interesting? A null session can get um, you more information than a session where you've logged on with credentials. Look, I don't think realistically you'll find a situation like this. I think here Mayfly is simply wanting to demonstrate how badly configured a box can be when an null session can offer somebody more information than an actual username. Okay, so um, thank you, Mayfly. Thank you for demonstrating this. But yeah, it was very, very curious. If you do a null session, you get more information. If you offer credentials, you get nothing. Remember, I didn't say bad username and password. We could just make a bad password on purpose to see what kind of feedback we get, even less. With the correct password, yeah, so it's not complaining about a password. It's just saying, it's just giving you less detail than when you are supplying it with no username and password. Very curious. All right, moving on. So we've done, just want to catch our hosts one more time. So we've done King's Landing, we've done WINTERFELL, Now we're doing Marine. Let's try Marine with that username and password. And Marine says, nope, that username and password is not valid here. Suppose we supply it with domain information to say we're coming from a domain called North. It says, I don't care, you're coming in with the domain information. I'm still not letting you in. Okay, so all right, no problem. So we move on. Samwell.tarly is not going to get any joy here. We clear the screen and we go to Castle Black. Castle Black is 22. At Castle Black, if you supply no username and password, it won't reject you, but it's just not giving you anything. Can you recall what it gave us when we supply no credentials? It gave us even less. In fact, it said it doesn't want null sessions, and that's why you're seeing that error there. Okay, but if you do give it a username and password, it's not giving you any errors, but it's still not giving you any useful information. Finally, let's do 23. What's 23? 23 is Bravos. I suspect we won't be able to see anything there either. So you log in with a domain account. Hey, what do you know? Domain account can actually, oopsie, log in, but it's just telling you that yeah, it's just telling you that access denied, meaning yes, you can log on, but once you've logged on, you're getting nothing. So let's just remove the domain part. You can still log on, but it's just telling you, okay, fine, you can log on, but all right, we'll leave it right there. The video is already gone long. I'm trying to keep these short. Just a recap of what we've done today. We carried on where we left off yesterday by doing more null sessions, but this time we were not using RPC client like we've done in the previous video. This time we used enum4linux to do more null sessions. And using enum4linux, we discover that on the WINTERFELL box, the user samwell.tarly was leaking passwords. Somebody had made an error using the Active Directory Users and Computers app to create the account, and they left the password in the descriptive field, thinking that that information could not be discovered. enum4linux was able to show us that password, and we were able to use those credentials to do a little bit more enumeration, still using enum4linux, and we discovered something very curious for this particular lab. I don't think it's something that we'll see in other labs, that sometimes when a box is misconfigured, you can find a null session having more rights to enumerate more objects on the box than an actual username. All right. So we're going to stop here. Next up, we are going to see how we can use samwell.tarly's account to do more enumeration on Samba. But for now, I thank you for watching, and I will catch you on the next one. Thank you.